Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome to the HIT.OR.DIE podcast. We're here with your hosts, Jake Saldati and Chad Rothford.
It's weird not seeing you in there.
Yeah, we the shelter in place thing, we're testing it out. We're seeing how we do back together again.
Yeah, but the other room's on lockdown, the studio.
Yeah,
So.
At home is on lockdown. So, yeah, episode 56. We got the head coach from Buchanan, Brad Fonts, will be joining us today. And yeah, if you go check out our last episode 55 with Zach Presno, which was great. I think every high school kid should listen to that episode just to, kind of see what it's like as a Division I baseball player to be more about the team than yourself. I thought he was amazing, actually, to listen to.
So I think high school kids that want to go Division I or think they're Division I players, that's definitely something to go listen to.
Yeah, for sure. Because, it's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to do it.
Well, to live it. I mean, he's lived it the last 3 years. So.
Yeah, but how prepared he was from, Buchanan to going to Fresno State was was really good. And I just feel like, a lot of the high school kids out there are all about, the talk.
Well, they haven't seen it.
No.
And they haven't gone through it, and it's just a different world, man. It's a different game.
Yeah.
So, and good, like you said, we don't know what's going to happen with the draft for him or if he's going to be a Bulldog or whatnot. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. But, definitely wish him all the best. Over the weekend too, just getting right into some of the pre-stuff before we get into Brad Fonts. There was some stuff on Twitter yesterday. We kind of shut it down, though. We didn't really get into it.
There was no point. It was going nowhere.
It was an argument you're not going to win. It's kind of like the Jordan LeBron talk.
Yeah, it was just everybody thinks it's like I have something personal against certain schools and stuff, but that's not the.
It just so happened to be that school, though.
I just feel like you should be true to where you come from and the town you're from. And I didn't realize, I'm not from Madera, but so like growing up and playing, I was a Bullard kid, and you don't think of Madera as Madera, like, you know what I mean? Like its own city type thing. And when I finally came to coach here, I realized that, it is its own city, and the people in this community take pride in that. And I feel like I bought into that, the Madera mentality in the community, and I loved it when I was here. And I feel like some of these kids that are growing up playing Little League and Babe Ruth and TJ or, the junior highs here, and then they decide to go to a different high school, I feel like you are almost disrespecting your friends and your community by choosing a different school over where you still live, where you still hang out with your friends, where you still go to church, where you still go, all that. You're kind of disrespecting your town. And you can say it's for school, it's for religion. You can say whatever you want, but it's a bunch of BS because it's not. High school is high school. And there's honor classes everywhere you go. There's good teachers everywhere you go. There's bad teachers everywhere you go. And, college scouts, they're not going to be like, oh, he goes to Madera. That's not a good school for academics. No, if your GPA is 3.30 above, they're not going to say that. They're going to say, is he cleared to go to college? And I feel like a lot of these parents, they're chasing something when if these kids stayed in this town, there would be a lot more Valley championships in the last 10 years.
I would agree with that. I don't think it's BS because I know some kids growing up here that are, certain school that those kids always, they just went to Memorial. It was, that's the school that
Well, they're St. Joachim's kids.
Right. So
well, that's different. They're going to a Catholic school their whole life. So that's those kids that we've heard about. Even when I was coaching here, we knew they were going to Memorial. That wasn't a question. It's the kids that I was mainly getting at was the ones that went to the same elementary schools, junior high, as all the kids we get. And then all of a sudden.
Well, I don't want to single out. I don't think we need to single out Memorial. In this instance, that's what was posted. Because it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had kids go to multiple schools from Madera, if we're going to use us as an example, not just Memorial. But, yeah, the post was, kids working out hard, which good for them with what kids have had to go through to see kids trying to get better. I'm all for that. And the thing is, though, that you don't go here,
You chose not to go here.
Go to your field.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem saying that. I really don't. And the argument became, well, that's taxpayer money and they have a right to use that field, and that's fine. To just be ready to take the heat. People are going to make comments. People are going to have a problem with it. You don't have to like it. That's fine. And you're right. You pay taxes. Sure. I guess you do have a right to have access to it. Although right now you probably shouldn't be out there. You're not supposed to be, but don't think.
Well, we're not supposed to be here.
Guys, whatever. I'm essential.
I know. I work at Essential.
But what I'm saying? Don't be mad when somebody points it out. That's all.
And it's just because you're from Madera, so you take it personal.
Yeah, in the last 12 years, I've seen a bunch of kids leave our programs.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating.
And I take it personal because I was coaching here and got to see it firsthand. So, and that's why people, we might single out a certain school, but, if I was coaching at Clovis, I'm coaching at Clovis West, if I see, Clovis North kids doing that, I probably would have said something about it too. Hitting in our cages or something like that. I've been like, go to your school, man.
Well, my job's not to police other programs. I'm not, that other comment was about other schools. If I see, kids doing it at Fowler, well, no, Fowler's not my responsibility.
Yeah.
I coach here. I represent this school. So yeah, if your school has a field, go use that field.
Yeah. You're not going to go to the Madera weight room.
That's a good point.
And, you're going to probably go to Memorial's weight room since the gyms aren't open. I'm sure you might be able to get access there. You're not – I know the Memorial has a lot of Madera baseball kids. I don't see any of them out where, hitting in our cages. I'm sure they'd rather go to Memorial and hit in the cages if they have access.
They have a nice facility.
Yeah, so does their football field's a football field. It doesn't have the turf as like Madera, but, it's just more of like a slap in the face. Like, you're not good enough for me to come here and play, but the field's good enough for me to get a workout in because I live here.
Right. It's easy access.
When it's definitely easy access just to go to school here anyways. But it is what it is. It's not going to change the fact that people are going to transfer and do what they do. It's just personal because,
I think ultimately my point is that's fine. Okay. And if you don't like us commenting on, you on Madera's field or whatever field you came from, just don't be upset when somebody calls you out on it.
Yeah.
That's all. People have some pride, man.
Or don't post anything.
Or don't.
It's not about me. I get it. I get Pags, said, send me your stuff, but he's just trying to retweet it so people, see stuff, but you don't need to do that. Be silent. Get your work in. Let it show when we come back and your coaches can be like, man, this guy was really working, rather than, you don't know if there's one video and that's all they do the whole time. You know what I mean? So it's just
they're not posting their whole workouts.
It is what it is, but it's all.
I didn't think it was that big a deal to comment on it, but.
Well, I seem to be a voice. I don't shy away from confrontation. But I also check my P's and Q's and make sure that what I put out there is a truth statement, so go to your field.
Here's the thing. And the counter to that is that if a kid left another program, your program, so if you have a problem with what we're saying, just think about the program, whichever one you're associated with, and 2 or 3 of your best players leave that program to go somewhere else, and yet you see them practicing on the program or your facility that they left from, you'd probably be pissed off about it.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you wouldn't be, because then you're not a competitor. You're not. You're just lying.
Yep.
If you saw kids that left your program working out on your field, you would be red hot. I don't care what anybody's don't. I don't want to hear, oh, well, we're good for the kids. No. And we're not going to give out anybody's names, and we're not going to talk bad about kids. Again, I appreciate the kids putting in work. That's all well and good. But any coach that says they wouldn't be a little pissed off to see kids that left their program working out on their facility, you're wrong. I don't buy it. I don't believe you. I really don't.
Yeah. Like, what if those kids, the Madera kids that went to Memorial, we're only using this school because that's the case that we're talking about. But then they came back to Madera for like their junior, senior year, but then they go work out at Memorial. You think the Memorial coaches?
I'm sure they would be irritated about that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's a double standard where people are.
And not that there's anything wrong with that. That's what we're saying.
I would expect that.
Yeah,
as a coach,
absolutely.
I would be heated too. Those players could help our program out, but they're helping somebody else's program out. But now they want to work out at our facility.
And for whatever reason, I don't care what the reason is. It could be good, bad, whatever. Non-athletic, athletic, it doesn't matter.
No.
Just don't be upset when somebody calls you out on it.
Yeah.
It's fair game at that point. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're not disrespecting the kids, that's one thing I would never tolerate. And I'm not going to talk bad about kids. And especially when it comes to that stuff, ultimately the parents have the decision in that process anyway. So,
yep.
But with that comes people that will call you out. That's all.
Yep. Agreed.
The KBO baseball, ESPN just signed a deal to broadcast some of the Korean baseball games. And I think the times it's starting tonight.
1 a.m.
Which it's
then
Monday.
5:30 a.m.
So I think it's during this whole week, one game a week.
Yeah.
They're going to be broadcasting some baseball games. It would be interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, it was like 4 a.m. Eastern time.
I mean, the live time is going to be stupid. Hopefully they play them back again. I don't know. It just doesn't make.
Well, you could DVR, right? I can't believe you should be able to record it, so you don't have to watch it live. I don't think the live audience will be that great.
No.
I don't miss baseball that much to be up at 2 a.m. To go watch it. So, but it'll be nice to see some baseball, I guess. I don't
know. Are we going to even know who the players are?
Probably. Do you think you're going to know who the players are?
Well, I think they could have 2 to 3 American or other nationality players on each team. But, I'm sure I'm going to watch a little bit. I probably won't sit down and watch a whole game. I got some catching up to do, man, on Ozark. And I've been getting into these shows now that, we don't have anything to do. Ozark, we're on season 3 already. I'm trying to get you into that. I got to catch up on The Last Dance, episode 5 and 6.
I got to finish 6.
I was pissed I didn't record the Fresno State game. I thought it was Sunday and not Saturday.
Game 3?
Yeah, but I have game 1 and game 2 saved.
I thought you recorded that on the ESPN one.
I did, but then it deleted because I didn't say keep. And I guess after like a week or two, it deletes.
Just deletes on
I was
its own.
Pissed. Yeah, so I have game 1 and game 2 saved though. So game 2 that's probably the best one anyways.
That was a fun one to watch.
What they did.
Yeah, that was fun. We're going to go ahead and get Brad Fonts on here and talk a little Buchanan baseball, talk about some of his coaching history, being at Fresno State, being at Hoover, some of his playing career. So we'll be right back with Brad Fonts.
Everybody, welcome back to HIT.OR.DIE podcast, episode 56. We're joined with head coach at Buchanan, Brad Fonts. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Appreciate it, guys. Good to see you.
You were McLean guy?
Yes.
And you were drafted by the Texas Rangers in the 8th round in 1986. You forewent your letter of intent to play at California, and you played 4 seasons in the minors, 3 for Texas, and your final year with Minnesota. Then you started your coaching career, you just told us, was in Hanford. Then you got the head job at Hoover from 99 to 05. You played in the Valley Championship in 2000 against Centennial, lost a tough one there. And then you were at Reedley High School in 06, and then took over the central job for 07 to 13. You went to Fresno State for some time, and then you went back to Central, and then you're currently at Buchanan. First, let's go in. McLean was a powerhouse. Yeah. People don't realize, but then we had Jason Wood on the show, and he kind of let everybody know like how big McLean, Fresno High, Bullard, like that. Those were battles for three powerhouse schools back in the day. And so let's get into going to McLean, and then the draft. But you also had your letter of intent to Cal, and just your decision on going pro instead of going to college.
Yeah, so back in McLean, you're right, man. There were some battles with Fresno High and Bullard. In fact, my junior year, 85, your dad helped coach on that team. And, things were different back then. Like we used to do the crossfire BP with one team in left and one team in right, and you're hitting into each other. And I remember we're taking BP at Clovis High, and your dad's kind of in the middle of it. And I used to think that I hit the ball pretty hard. I hit a line drive, and he just reached up and grabbed it with his big old paw and threw it back. And I kind of dropped the bat and walked out. And I said, "I'm good. I don't need to do this anymore." So there were some good games back then.
Yeah, and then you decided to go to Cal. Was that the only offer you had? Were there other schools you were looking for? I know Fresno State was big back then. Was that on the table? And then your decision to go pro?
Yeah, my three trips were Stanford, Cal, and Fresno State. And then Cal, once I got on campus and just the atmosphere and Coach Milano, I fell in love with the program, and it was pretty easy for me to decide that Cal was where I wanted to go. Stanford, I think I got an hour into the trip and told my dad, "Let's go. There's no chance." And then Fresno State offered. It was I don't know if it was a full offer. It was different back then. So, but after I got to Cal, I just knew Cal was a spot for me.
And then what triggered the decision to jump into pro ball?
Man, it was crazy back then. They're telling you you're going to go in the first 3 or 4 rounds. So you come up with a prize, and, your name's not called, And then you get to the 8th round, and Texas called, and they came with an offer. It wasn't what we wanted. So I said, no, I'm going to go to school. And then they called back. So I called Milano. I said, "Hey, it's not going to work out. I'll be on campus." And then they called back and offered, what we wanted. And I told my dad, I said, "Man, I don't want to make this call to Coach Milano." And he goes, "Hey, if you're going to sign, you're going to man up and make this call." So I had to call Coach Milano and tell him that I was going to go the draft route.
I'm sure he understood. I mean,
that second conversation go.
Yeah, man, that was rough. I'm not going to lie. He was a little disappointed, but like you said, he understood. But it was difficult.
Man, that's
but that's part of growing up too.
It is.
Like your dad said, that's you got to make those big boy decisions.
I wonder how many
100%.
kids would make that call nowadays.
I mean,
maybe just throw a tweet out there or a text.
Well, I learned one thing, though. I would have let the whole process work through before I made that first call and see how I was going. So,
was it? What was it like when you got there? You get to spring training, or your short season or whatever you go through right out of high school. What was that like for you? Your first time getting up there and getting a taste.
So I graduated, and I think 2 days later they flew me to Oakland, and I got to work out with the Rangers. They were playing the A's, and I'm in the bullpen, and Darryl Porter's in the bullpen, and this old guy comes walking down, and he's limping, and he's got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. And I'm like, I turned to Darryl Porter, and I'm like, "Who's this guy? Is this guy that throws BP?" And he looked at me like I was an idiot, and he started laughing. He goes, "That's Charlie Huff." I'm a young guy. I didn't know who the hell Charlie Huff was. And he says, "You're going to catch him." I'm like, "All right." So I squat down, and he flips the fastball up there, and I'm like, "How is this guy in the big leagues?" And it's like 65. And then all of a sudden he does this, And I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, it's a knuckleball. And I'm not kidding you. It starts here and it goes over there, and I'm like 5 feet from it. And they're rolling and laughing at me. And finally, Porter gives me this bigger catcher's glove, and I'm either catching with my glove or my chest protector just to keep it from going all the way back to the dugout. So that was kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, but to catch Charlie Huff for your first, that's a story in itself. And
yeah, then the next guy that came out, I knew who he was. It was Bobby Witt. So you go from catching a knuckleball to 95, and in high school you don't see a lot of 95, and so it was interesting.
And what about offensively? Was it a pretty big adjustment early?
Yeah, everything was away. It's pretty much why I stopped playing. The sliders and the fastballs away. I was a Deadpool guy, middle in, and once they know that you can't hit the ball in the outer part of the plate or hit it with authority, that's all we got. So that was a big adjustment. The biggest adjustment was being out on your own. I know it's different now, but the nutrition side, like if you got to Denny's and had a salad or like a super bird, that was healthy back then, right? It was fast food and scuffling to find some good stuff to eat. The weights weren't really a big thing back then. So you got to, work out when you could. So that was the biggest adjustment going from high school where I played football. So we lifted, Coach DeMarco, we'd lift together. And I think my first year I signed, I went back to Florida. We played in that rookie ball league. So it was from 8 to 11 you worked out. From 11 to 12 you had lunch, and then from 1 to whatever you played. And that was 6 days a week. You had Sundays off. And I think I got back there about 182. I came home 160. So the nutrition, the sweat, the playing every day, that was probably the biggest adjustment.
That's not a very big catcher.
No. In fact, we played Canseco's brother was on, the Yankees were there as well. And there was a collision at the plate one time, and he literally knocked me out of the dirt almost. I just barely landed in the dirt on my back. He was a moose. So it was, not a very big catcher.
You already got some good, like some of the best stories ever. And your first time catching, you catch, Charlie Huff. He's a Hall of Famer, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's good. And then, 3 years with the Rangers, 1 with Minnesota. Did you ever, when did you finally decide that, what, I love baseball, playing might not be it, I want to get into coaching?
Well, the light for me was when I was in Minnesota. I was in Kenosha and A-ball in the Midwest League. And I was playing quite a bit, and then they drafted a young guy and brought him in, and then we ended up splitting time. So I kind of knew where I was with within the organization. And, the life on the road is no joke. You're gone all the time. So that and kind of figuring that, I was splitting time with a new guy. I figured it was just my time to hang it up and come home. So that's what prompted that. Once I got home, I went right back to McLean, and Jimmy Samarco was the head coach there now. And we were really good friends. In fact, Jimmy was in my wedding. So he said, come out, throw some BP, hang out. So I did that. I was working part-time at UPS, and it kind of got to the point where, Mama said, you're either going to finish school or you're going to go full-time at UPS. Finish school and coach or go full-time. And, Jimmy and Merv and Buddy Vickers kind of nudged me, and I decided to wear it and finish school and then start coaching.
And then from there, did you coach at McLean? And then
I coached football and baseball like 92. Yeah, 92 all the way up until when I got my first job at Hanford.
Hoover.
It was. I was excited. Buzz Nitsky was the AD, so it was really good to be around him, and he kind of took me through the Hoover tradition, and how Subi calls it the factory, and kind of the history of Hoover. And the first year, we had a pretty good ball club. We were about 500. That's when we used to have the highlight games at Fresno City. You know, they'd have one game a week at Fresno City, and we had to win that last one to get into the playoffs. And I don't know, 3 or 4 of the seniors had prom that night. We couldn't change the game, so those guys were in no-show, and we lost by a run. So that first year was a little rough, and I go, all right, we got to get after it now. And then the next year, that's the team Mark was on, and we had a bunch of football guys on that team, and they were tough and just blue collar. They brought a lunchbox every day, and we just got after it.
Was that Valley title game? Was it at Hoover?
No, I was down in Bakersfield.
That's
Bakersfield College. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were good, man. We got off the bus, and they were all 6'3", 6'4". They're hitting balls out of the yard, and they're BP. And our guy that threw BP, Mike Snyder, who's passed now, but he was the defensive coordinator. He threw our BP, and he probably hit the first 5 guys. He was nervous. And then, it was a little bit embarrassing. The BP wasn't very good. And then we took in and out, and they started talking trash. You know, back then it was a whole nother level. And then our guys were pretty good at it. So when they started doing that, then everybody relaxed, and it was kind of on from there.
Yeah, I remember going to those Bullard Hoover games. My brother graduated in 2000 from Bullard, and I remember those got really heated and personal. There's some personal stuff, and especially you had football guys in 2000, a lot of them, and those guys played. They remember the Battle of Barstow with the football game, and they got pretty heated, and it carried on when I was there and stuff. But it's kind of sad to see now that Bullard Hoover rivalry is kind of not there anymore.
Yeah,
you can't say anything anymore.
No, there's not a lot of trash talk anymore. But
I remember your brother would run that veer option or whatever they ran when I was coaching at Hoover, and we would just knock the crap out of him. And he'd get up and keep running it. He'd keep getting up. I'm like, geez, this guy stayed down, man. But he wouldn't. He just kept going.
Yeah, he was pretty tough.
He was.
His nickname was The Rock for a reason, but yeah, he was tough. Those were some good battles. I remember Hoover, Bullard when you were there.
Yeah, Millsy was the third baseman pitcher, I think, in '99. He reminds me of that all the time.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does. I think was he the winning pitcher on the mound in the Valley game?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah, that was.
They were good. They had Bashirs and Myers in center, and
Norcross was the other pitcher. Kevin James at first.
Yes.
Tommy Shannon, Craig Click.
Yeah, that was a good ball club.
Yeah, they were stacked. That was definitely one of the years that they won it, and they should have. You know, they were good enough. But then, so then you go to Reedley for a year. What was that like?
Well, the teaching gig at Hoover was special ed, and I had done that. And then our VP went out to Reedley. He took over the principal, and he had a PE gig out there. So I went out there. KP was coaching. So I got to coach with KP and Hannah for a year. And then they went to Clovis West. And so I got the year. I was actually at Reedley for 2. So I did the head job the last year. But coaching with KP and Hannah, that was a blast, man. Those guys are great.
And then Reedley, then Central.
Oh, yeah, you kind of have to – when that opens up, was that
you have to come back.
It's an opportunity.
Yeah, I love the community out in Reedley, the small town, and it was really cool. But when Central called and the opportunity to get into that conference, you couldn't pass that up.
Yeah, and you were who was it? Was it Pat Ware that was before?
It was Angel Arroyo.
Angel Arroyo? I don't even know.
When Noakes, Ware, and then Arroyo.
Okay. And then you came in so was it 08? Your first year?
7 was
7.
Yeah.
You were there 5. And you had some great ball clubs. I remember going to Central, and you guys were, you always have tough. You've always been tough, had tough teams, and they always played hard, no matter the talent. And I think that something you instilled, and you still do in all of your teams that I've seen. So going to Central kind of almost revamping the program when you got there. Just give us a little background on how you came about that and, trying to implement because that was your longest stint coaching wise before up until now.
Yeah. We, when we got at Central, the first thing we noticed that was they were really underweight trained. Before we even got on the field, we were getting beat as far as being physical. So we got in, Bo Brock, Kendall and Q's dad was teaching PE out there. I bribed him with a brand new office chair to come out and coach for me and do the weight training part. So once we got into the weight program, and I did that first period, which our first period back then started at like 7:20. So it was early. So I knew we wouldn't go out on the field. I wouldn't cheat and take them out on the field to get some baseball work in. So once we got that going, that made a huge difference. You could see bodies change. You could see attitudes change. They started to play with a little bit of an edge, had a little bit more swag to them. And that made a huge difference. And then just going over the foundation of the fundamentals, right? I mean, when I got there, there was really a lack of knowledge of the game, which I think still today, kids don't watch baseball. But, trying to put them in as many of the situations that we could from the beginning and then just carry over. There was not much of a summer program. Then we got into the fall program. And I think one year we had like 22 teams in the fall program across the valley, and everybody played. And so we were playing a lot more games. And I think that made a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. And I think I could be wrong. I remember hearing that, you had to let some kids go, even some talent, just to establish the culture you wanted there. And you took your lumps doing that, but it, in the long run, more kids bought into that system. And I mean, I could be wrong. You could tell me or correct me.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. There were some guys that were kind of used to going about their business a certain way, and we knew how we wanted it to look. Like I said, I brought Coach Brock in, and then Derek Mills came over, and he was the pitching coach. And so we knew what it was supposed to look like and how we wanted it to look, and how we took the field and how we wore a uniform and all that basic kind of stuff. And you're right, there were some guys that didn't feel like that was important. And, for those guys, unfortunately, it just wasn't the right program for them.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, a lot of kids don't understand that by you not wearing your uniform correctly, that could turn into you not knowing bump play one.
Yeah.
Or, missing a hit and run sign or a steal sign or, and I've always thought that way because, I mean, I was raised old school. I think a lot of us are, and I know you're more old school. It all starts with putting your socks on and your uniform, and you look like a team. You look like a baseball player. We didn't wear ankle socks or, we didn't have our skin showing. And I think that's where it starts is if you know how to do that correctly, then you're going to be prepared to know bump play one, bump play, and and you got to do that with the culture. You got to change the culture. And that's why you're a very successful coach.
And it's all, we talk about it all the time, the attention to detail. And it's not just on the field, it's off the field. Nowadays it's how you eat, it's how you sleep, it's the whole picture. And if you can't do all those things, then at some point you're going to get exposed.
You're now fast forward to 2019. You get on at Buchanan. Was that something because you weren't on staff when all that went down, right? You were.
So I was at Central in 13 and 14. Bates called and asked if I wanted to be the volunteer assistant, and I decided to take that. So I did that for a year at Fresno State, and then our assistant superintendent, Chris Williams, went to Paso Robles, the guy from Central, and he had hooked me up with a schedule which allowed me to be able to get over to Fresno State in time and coach. And when he left, that schedule kind of went away. So I wasn't able to coach at Fresno State again. And Jeff was at Central, and James Gambrell is one of my best friends. And, I called him and I said, hey, what's going on in Buchanan? I talked with Tommy and they offered me an assistant coaching job over there. And then Central was gracious enough to let me continue to teach at Central. So I coached 15, 16, and 17 at Buchanan.
And then you went back when Jeff got the North job. You went back to Central for 8.
They kind of called in that marker when Jeff went back to Clovis, or went to Clovis North. So I went back in 18 and did it for a year.
And then did you end up getting a teaching job at Buchanan in 19, or were you still teaching at Central?
No, I was a community day school, which is over by Gateway. That one of those jobs opened up. My dad was having some health issues. It was closer for me. So Steve France, I got on with Steve France over there. And I wasn't doing any coaching. I was just teaching at the day school, helping my dad and doing that stuff in 19.
And then that's when you got a call from Tom to come help out while he was suspended.
Right. That's how that started.
What was that like when it's all said and done and you're named the head coach? I mean, you don't have to get into too much details, but how was that to keep those kids? Because that was right when the season was starting.
Yeah, it was right when we were starting.
So they've gone through their fall workout. They've January hit, and now it's time to play games. How do you kind of keep their mindset and focus right? Or, I mean, was that pretty easy for those guys considering the type of program that been there?
So I think the thing that made it an easier transition was those seniors. I had them as sophomores when I was there. So Miggy and JD and Kinger and all those guys, I was on staff when they were sophomores. So my actual first day at Buchanan was the board scrimmage. So walking in, that was a little bit different. So the first day I saw him was a scrimmage. But like I said, I had built relationships with those guys before. And the program that TD had built and the mindset that those kids had, it was all business. It was a pretty smooth transition from coach to coach. The entire coaching staff was there. The guys that have been there for years, Johnny Gross and Subi and Sylvia and Jimmy Williams and all those guys. So it was a smooth transition.
And I guess with you coaching with Coach Donald, it kind of, you knew what the program was like. And so there wasn't much of, because you didn't have time to be like, okay, I want to do things this way or that way. You kind of just went with the flow. And that was the first time in 19, because I was at Clovis West. So that was the first time I got to see Buchanan like take batting practice and in and out. And I remember it's the one batting practice that I've watched.
He called me. And the first thing he said to me after that game, I couldn't even tell you if you guys won or lost.
Oh, we lost.
Was you talking about your BP?
Yeah.
And he must have went on. That means until you got home, like 20 minutes.
No, it was the one batting practice in all of high school that I've coached that I watched the entire batting practice. And Miranda, our pitching coach, I looked over to him and I said, "Did you guys do this when you were there?" He said, "Yeah." And I was like, I'm watching a Division I college baseball program, like just how everybody talked, and they had, at a certain round, it was double plays and Sub would wait for the ball to get going, and then just how the hitters, did their rounds and the routine. And I'm just like, this isn't a high school baseball program. And I was jaw dropped, and I've never done that before, especially in high school baseball. And I was just like, holy crap, this is a baseball program. And I think that's why it was a smooth transition for you, that you've been there already. And it was kind of like, you just kind of let them play. They already knew, and you just kind of wrote the lineup and, just let it go.
Yeah, that was a special group. I think there were 13 seniors on that team. And they knew what it was about. And the more lathered up they were after BP, the more fired up we got, right? They'd come off and they're filthy and they're sweating dots, and our outfielders are chasing down balls. And when we did that, we knew we had a chance. When it wasn't as intense in BP, and maybe a shortstop didn't dive for a ball in the 6th hole in BP, then that's when we needed to address, hey, you need to get after it. That's not good enough.
Yeah, I think as a coach, more programs need to look at that.
Here's my comment too: is you don't have to be Buchanan to play that way.
No,
you don't have to be as athletic. You don't even have to be as talented.
No,
you just said it was all about just going hard.
Your attitude and effort, pretty much.
The talent had nothing to do with getting dirty or trying to make a play. So really, it's up for anybody to do it. That's what I like about it.
Yeah, but like you said, it's that business mentality, and you make it fun that way. You can still go about it as business, but you can make it fun because it's still a game, and games would be fun. But I mean, I think Hormel and Timo, is it Timo, right? He was at third.
Timo, yeah.
They were having competitions to who's going to get dirty, and dive for balls. Right. I mean, they made it fun, and even though it was more business like, hey, we're here to do a job, but we're going to have fun doing it and play hard.
Yeah, that we take a lot of heat sometimes because we have 9 guys on staff or 8 guys on staff or whatever. But that run, 15, 16, and 17, that coaching staff was off the chart. And you think we had Jason Donald and Subi and all those guys. Those kids got away with nothing. I mean, it was everybody watching. Indo-D was down to a gnat's butt. They got after it. And I would take the catchers over and I listened to Prez the other day, and, we'd have a 20-minute Indo-D period, right? Well, with Sub and Jason, it never went 20 minutes. It went 25. It went in. You might as well just tear the practice plan up. Went into 30 minutes. So, there's only so much I can do with Prez without beating the crap out of him. So I'd send him over to the infielders, and he could work on picks and taking some ground balls and do some glove work, which – at times a plate to plate or something, you got to pick through one or something. So just to get him, out of the squad a little bit. So he said the other day that, he never played the infield. Well, he did get some infield reps. That's why he ended up being a good first baseman.
Well, yeah. I was going to say, you're talking about down to details. I remember it was 15. We were pretty good here. It was 15
group? Yeah, 15.
And I think you must have come out to like 5 or 6 of our games. And Andy, I remember Andy's like, we must be pretty good because Buchanan's been coming out to watch a lot of games. And you think about it, it's that attention to detail. You're every edge you can get on any opponent you're going to play. People can say what they want, but it goes back to kind of why Buchanan's so good.
Yeah.
And even to comment about the coaches. Okay, that's fine too. And I've probably been guilty of saying something like that. But I'd also say, hey, Jason Donald, if you want to coach, we'd be more than happy to have you. So you're not going to turn them away either.
No.
Yeah, no, it goes back. Joe Kemp is phenomenal with the scouting reports. And when I first got there, him and I kind of took over that. So we'd tackle all the games and we'd get together and put them on cards. And then Jason and I would sit down and he would go through the infield positioning. I would do the outfielders. And then I'd sit with Johnny Gross and go over the hitting charts and stuff. And it was another level down to the organization, and everybody stayed in their lane. And it was a special time. I mean, that was a 3-year run. I think won like 86 games and lost like 6 or 7. I mean, it was crazy. The athletes were off the chart. Administration was great. Like our principal would come out. The ADs were out there. I mean, everybody was all in.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. I mean, now it being your program, can you talk little bit about this 20 team? We got to play you guys in the Coke Classic, and I was really impressed with some of the youth you had, and they played at a higher level. And I was excited to see. I know that the rankings came out, and they were, I think, 6 to start with, and after that game, it was like, these guys are going to be a top 3 team by the end of this year. Can you kind of talk about your group?
Yeah, so when we came out for the summer, and the kids came out, with a lot of new faces. I think we had 7 sophomores and a freshman up, and the youth part of it was obviously in play. And, but we kind of also noticed how talented they were as far as just their raw skills and how they went about it, how they kind of moved. Like, oh, this group's pretty good. So we got into the summer, and I guess you could say it was kind of a travel ball mentality where they came out, everybody was quiet. They got their ground ball work in, they got their swings in, but there wasn't a lot of communication. And I turned to Subi and I said, Sue, man, this isn't going to work. We're going to get crushed. So our summer was geared more to practice than it was to games. So we practiced 3 to 4 times a week at night. And then, man, we took it to them. I mean, we really 3-4 hour practices, really got after them, and forced them to communicate, forced them to do the pre-pitch, force them to talk, force them to execute a bunt. And we were hoping some of them wouldn't quit. I mean, it was rough. We brought Jason out. Jason is now a consultant. So I get him one night a week, usually after he gets home from work, and he calms down his 50 kids. And then he comes out. We get him for about 45 minutes, and which is awesome. And he went through the infield stuff with Subi. So we really just kind of taught him how to practice through the summer, which was huge. And they responded. Nobody quit. Nobody walked off. Nobody laid up. They got after it. They dragged themselves off the field and came back the next day, and they're ready to go.
Sometimes you got to do that. I think that needs to be done more is practice. We've talked about, like you were saying, the travel ball mentality and stuff. And these kids play games, but sometimes you wonder like how much development is going on with just playing games all the time with no coaching and fundamental stuff. Because I know you're really big on fundamentals, and it shows because of the little things. And I think that there needs to be a lot more practice involved with getting better. I mean, that's how I always say we grew up, but that's what we did. Fundamentals, we took ground balls, we hit off a tee. We didn't really play games. We did Babe Ruth and Legion ball, and then we were playing football or basketball, so I think a lot of people emphasize on getting reps in game situations, which I get. You need to get live at bats and ground balls and stuff, but I still feel like, sometimes ground balls on your, taking them on your knees and working with your hands is you can get a lot more done than, playing 4 double headers in a weekend.
Right. Just that communication part, like Brady Hormel was off the chart, and, he played next to Jamal, and Jamal was really good at communicating. JT, off the chart communicator. So when those guys graduated, then the next guy has to step in and have that communication piece, because that's when you get exposed, right? In the heat of the moment where everything's going sideways, and if you don't know where you're going with the ball or where you're backing up or what you're doing before it happens, then that's when you get beat.
Do you guys record stuff for practice at all? Like filming your defensive work, cage stuff? Do you guys film any of that stuff?
Yeah, Subi does the hitters, and he'll do a lot of the video stuff with the hitters, and then the defensive stuff when we do our HIT.OR.DIE, we'll get some of that, not a lot, more of the bullpen stuff. But the cool thing is that once we get done with the HIT.OR.DIE and we get into our stuff, we do a high pressure kind of infield drill. It's called different things. It's called bases loaded game. It's a situational game, and it's pressure, right? And if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't communicate with guys running the bases, we'll load the bases up, and coach will be throwing, and it'll be live. And that's when havoc breaks loose, right? When the bases are loaded, or you got first and second, or second and third. So keeping the double play in order and knowing when you're supposed to back up, that's when all that stuff shows up. And if that communication piece isn't there, then they get exposed, and they see that, and then it's funny because you'll kind of see a light go on, like, I get it, or even if it doesn't happen in practice, it'll happen in a fall game or something, and that's when the light goes on, and they go, I get it now. That's why you scream at me, the right fielder, to get all the way to the dirt to back up that throw from left, I remember Bates blowing Luplo up one day at practice because Loop's playing right, and he got like maybe 3 feet off the dirt. And Bates was good at that. He saw everything, and he said, get all the way to the dirt, not 3 feet off the dirt. It's just those things right there, show up. That'll happen 100 times. And on the 101st time, if you're not in the right angle, you miss the ball.
Yeah. And with 2020 going down the way it was, I mean, how has it been for, the Buchanan Bears, and you're, reaching out to the kids, and obviously it's pretty much done. How's everything going with you guys and the players and trying to move forward?
Man, it's rough. Everybody's in the same boat. We had 4 seniors that were on the team this year, and you hate for their last year to go down like that. Luckily, we were able to get our dinner in before all this got shut down. We were able to honor those guys at the dinner. But just for them not to be able to play their last season out and to go through that gauntlet of the conference, it's rough. And then it's rough for the other guys, for those young guys not to play those 15 games, and, for a couple guys to not be seen, and, to see how they'd swing it or how well they'd pitch as juniors and not get that exposure. That was a little rough too.
Yeah. Our league was going to be tough this year. I think there might've been some, 6 or 7 loss win in first place, maybe even just the way the pitching was going to go down. But yeah, like you said, having, only 4 seniors and a lot of those guys with little varsity experience to miss out on track play, that would have helped going into next year. So it's not like they're going to take a step back, but just to have that experience or lose it anyways, it's going to be difficult, but it's also fun. Track's fun and competitive, but I think this year was going to be one of the top seasons in track.
That was the deepest probably pitching conference in the last 10 years. Yeah. I mean, everybody had guys. I mean, there were going to be some battles on all those games, and it was, for our coaches too, we brought a lot of young coaches in because most of us are, all old guys. So we brought in Braden Frankfurt and Ross Dodds and Ian Ross and Dom Tapuzian and all those guys. And for them to be able to go through that too would have been good for them.
Yeah, that's some good young talent on your coaching staff now.
Yeah, we've all been through it, the gauntlet of college ball and pro ball and high school and all that. And so the message is the same, but when you hear it from somebody that's done it more recent, then, the kids kind of, I think, respond to it a little bit better.
No, I agree. Absolutely. And then, you were talking too about like with the travel ball and getting reps, you don't fix some holes that way. You don't fix some of the things that are, maybe you're having issues with your swing or you're not getting enough at bats to work on anything.
Right. I mean, the travel ball is good to, like you said, to see the live pitching, to get the ground balls. But there's also a result-oriented thing, right? You want to hit, you want to show. Whereas when you go through the practice stuff, if you don't hit the ball out of the cage for 5 swings because you're working on something, it's easier to fix something, to work through something. And, these young kids, they want results right away. They understand the process of from A to B to C and to finally figure it out. And just these young guys, a lot of them, they don't have a feel for their barrel. They just are a feel for their stroke. And once they start to figure that out, then, you can kind of see that, and then they kind of take off.
It's going to be scary too when you guys figure it out with how young you are.
Yeah, take off.
And yeah, I can only imagine. We appreciate you coming on, and I know we've been trying to get you on, and you've had some family stuff which we talked about, but we appreciate you coming on, and good luck to you. And like we've heard from Jason told us the one guy that could take over the program was you, and I think that they got it right, and that legacy is going to continue and be a powerhouse from here on out. So good luck to you the rest of the way, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, and also your wife too. She's
yeah, she is
of the podcast.
She's all in.
We appreciate it.
We'll have We'll have to get you both some shirts.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. She's all in. She watches it. I'm not a big tech guy, so she'll come over and show me. And, but no, she loves the show. You guys are doing great things. I appreciate you having me on.
No problem.
Yeah. I remember I tweeted a private message to her to get you, because you don't have any social media. So that was the only way I was getting to you, was through her. And she seemed almost way more excited.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yes, he's going to do it. And he's so excited. So, yeah, but we do appreciate all of that, the support for sure.
You bet. You guys doing great things. Tell your dad I said hello. It's been a while since I've seen him.
I will for sure.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
That's episode 56, Hit or Die podcast.
Hit or Die.